Welcome to Season 2 of RecLess, the podcast making you smarter and more knowledgeable about the field of parks and recreation. Join hosts Shane Mize, Jay Tryon, and Tom Venniro, three career-long friends from around the country as they dive into the world of parks and recreation with a surprise guest each episode. Laughs, leadership, life. This is RecLess.
This is the new name for the guest is, and we haven't seen that name yet.
Oh, is there a name on here? I don't know.
Oh yeah,
Miss America Want to Be. Okay.
it's probably that must be the most creative one yet. It's not guest. It's not guess who. It's not Mr.
She's
Wonderful.
Giving away that it's a female.
Which
Or
I
you're trying to trick us.
already did. Yeah. So, all right, here we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to RecLess. This is our 5th episode of Season 2, number 27 overall. I'm Tom Venniro, your host for the day, joined, as always, by Shane Mize and Jay Tryon, as we are here to bring you into the world of parks and recreation. Guys, how are you doing today?
I am great now that I'm in here. It took me a while to get in, but I'm here.
Yeah, excited. Let's go.
All right, let's get this going. So we got a great episode lined up for everybody today. Jay, you have some new digs, right? You started a new job. How's it going?
I did. New digs, new beginning, and I'm in week number 2. It's going fantastic. Got a phenomenal team over here. But you kind of forget, I haven't had a new job in many, many years, but you forget like how much information you take in, your first few weeks. And it's like, the old saying, drinking from a fire hose is definitely a real thing.
I can see you're dyeing your hair. You're trying to look a little younger. Is that what you're doing?
I need to. I keep going grayer and grayer as the days go on. So maybe I need to do what you do and just shave it.
Just shave
Unless
it
maybe you don't shave it. I don't know if it grows anymore. You're just so old.
It does. It grows. I could have a full set of hair pretty quick, unfortunately.
I would love to see that.
Wow, Shane in a full head of hair. All right, well, I think that we might have to make some bets at some point where we try to make this happen, grow out that hair, and then Jay, for another episode, we do talk a lot about people transitioning into new jobs. So, we might have to grill you a little bit and hear how that transition period is working for you. But that's for another day. We don't really go into programming, I think, a ton on this format in our podcast. I think we provide a lot of services for our communities. And I just want to know from the both of you, from your past or recent past experiences, what's one program that your agencies have offered in the last, let's say few years that you really want to highlight and are proud of and you feel are unique?
I'm probably not going to completely answer your question, but I have a programming philosophy answer. And it might not resonate as well with the country when I make this comparison, but when I go into a Tex-Mex restaurant down here, a Mexican food restaurant in Texas, I will get whatever I want to get, but I usually also get chorizo and potato taco. And in some ways, I use that as a way for me to judge how good this restaurant is, because it's 2 ingredients. It's very simple, but the chorizo can be super greasy or it can be well done. And the potatoes can be super crispy, or they can be lightly, they can be boiled, they can be baked, they can be fried. And I think in some ways it gives me an idea of the intentionality of a restaurant. Always has for me. I judge a restaurant harshly on their chorizo and potato taco. So if I go to a taco restaurant, I'll get a chorizo and potato, and then I'll get something else, but I always get a chorizo and potato. I think the same way in programming wise for the Easter programs. Easter programs are almost like chorizo and potato tacos. It's very simple, right? It's eggs and kids. But in the process of how you do it, the intentionality of it, how you set it up, how you have people part, do you have any programming going before or after? What do you do if there's a rain event? All those other things. An Easter egg program is how I judge a lot of other departments. It is a way for me to see how much you care about programming, how much you're looking around corners, and how intentional you are with the programming you're doing. Is it just a field? Do you throw out 1,000 eggs and they're gone in 10 seconds, and some mom that's got 2 kids that gets there 5 minutes late, if you don't have a backup plan, are those kids just screwed? do you set aside 500 eggs and you throw those eggs for the people that are late? Do you have it fenced off? Do you have it separated by ages? You can do so much with just kids and just eggs. And I have always been super proud of the Easter events we put on, the egg events we put on, and really driven with staff, pretty much like a hard ass, that we're going to put on this event come rain or shine, and we're going to see around all the corners. The mad scientist thing happened when we had rain for a couple weeks, and it was the egg event, and I moved the egg event to the highest spot we had in the city. And then, as we talked about, I was willing to light that field on fire to dry it out, to be able to throw eggs. And if it meant renting a helicopter to dry off those fields, that's what we were going to do. And so I think programming can get really complicated. Some programming doesn't compare. You'll find someone that's got a university nearby, or the Kellogg's Foundation has sponsored this program, and so they come to NRPA and they show this $1 million program they have. And of course, that would be really cool if we all had that. But we all have kids and we all have eggs. And I find myself at times judging a department on how they set up and do it. Is it an afterthought? Is it just something they do? Or are they very intentional with the setup? And so I don't know if that answers your question, but I'm always very proud of our egg events. And it's not something that's an easy button for us. It's something that we are very intentional with.
Well, you personally enjoy eggs on a regular basis, so I'm not too surprised by your answer.
That's right. I didn't even think about that, but you're right.
Yeah. So, I guess you kind of answered it, but you got real deep. I don't think that's where I was going, but I think that's pretty typical of Shane's answers. Jay, why don't you give that one a crack?
I kind of want to judge a little bit, just because Shane was talking about judging other departments. I always thought it was chorizo, not chorizo, like with an S. It's with a Z, but maybe how you do it in Texas is different.
Chorizo.
But really quick, from the Easter egg perspective, I went to an Easter egg hunt last year that was not done through a park and rec department. It was in my community I live in. And for whatever reason, they started a couple minutes early. And I will never forget standing like in the sideline to the families that got there on time, but the eggs were like gone, and those kids just lost it. And I felt so bad, because as an organizer of events and programs, like that's like number one rule. Like you got to wait for like the schedule that you created to actually implement the program. And those parents were hot, and they had all right to be.
If a family leaves your egg event sad, you've done something wrong as a program planner.
Yeah.
You weren't intentional enough. They could get their 30 minutes leg and they're getting something from us. I'm just making sure it's happening,
Yeah. How many programs can I talk about here, Tom? Because I could go on and on. So
the question was pretty simple, just one unique program. I mean,
Tommy, two questions, limiting us to one answer.
How many times have we asked you to talk about one thing and you talk about two? So coming from you, I'm going to talk about two, because that's what I feel like I should do right now. One of the ones that comes to mind was a so simple idea program that we did in Indian Trail. And it's just called Coffee and Cards. Everyone has it, or maybe would have had it at some point in their facilities. The thought of it is literally that. You bring out coffee, you bring out cards or games for seniors to come out and play, and you provide that space. It can't get any simpler than that. But I will tell you the impact that program had over the years that I was there. And I'm not exaggerating when I say this, it was life-changing. There were relationships that were built amongst those people, and friendships that wouldn't have ever been created if we didn't offer that program. That, what started as once or twice a week, you're talking about older adults that might be a widow that are very lonely, that now hung out with people 5, 6, 7 days a week, because we gave them the opportunity to meet and socialize with people. So the engagement opportunity there was endless of what that impact was. But the other thing that comes to mind, and it's just because it's fresh in my head because we just finished a season of it, was we offered our very first all-girls flag football league. And not only was it the first one that we've ever offered, but it was our first like truly only middle school. All of our youth sports in the past have always been like 5 to 12-year-olds. In some cases, we go older up to like 16. But this was middle school only. And the school district here in Charlotte started doing a couple high school flag football leagues for girls only. Well, we said, well, why don't we partner with the school district to do it for middle school to get them ready for high school, because girls flag football is just growing tremendously. And I went out there to several of those games, talked to coaches, talked to parents, and just like the appreciation that the families had that we're giving an opportunity for these girls that want to play something that they've never been able to play before is pretty special. And to see the talent of that too, they were so talented and they were able to grow that skill level so quick. It's really cool to see. And it wasn't something super unique. We've been running flag football forever, but not for girls and not for 15-year-olds. So just kind of thinking outside the box, doing something a little bit different, and it was super successful.
That's great. We just offered our first girls flag football camp recently, and the school districts around here have started varsity programs for that. So I have been told that in the Buffalo region and then in the Rochester region, there's respectively about 35 programs in each of those regions, which, that number obviously may not mean anything to people all over the area, but Jay, you know a little bit about how the towns work and the school districts, and that's a pretty good number, for those areas. It's growing.
They highlighted them. They highlighted them on one of the playoff games because I reached out to you and said, "Wow, y'all have got a Buffalo area, a Rochester area girls football game." They were highlighting it during one of the Buffalo games.
Yeah, it's becoming a big deal, and in just 2 years, it's just shot up in terms of attendance. So, and I remember, I think it was 2 or so years ago at the Super Bowl, they ran this really, really great advertisement and commercial about girls flag football. And, you could just tell it was on the forefront. So those are great. I just wanted to share one with you both that we had recently been recognized for. And
that's why we're doing this.
Yes. It's really just about me, as always.
Just highlight, we won an award.
So, well, this was it. The actual recognition was a couple years ago, and then into last year. So it's not anything crazy recent, but we did it in the past 2 years. We partnered with the Special Olympics Western branch of New York, and basically started a Hilton-Parma Recreation Special Olympics Club. And this was the first of its kind in our area. I know that the Special Olympics partners with a lot of groups, right? And primarily though, they have their own sports, their own leagues, and you'll get a lot of maybe private groups or just individuals who want to coach and volunteer, who start a club. They're not in our area typically through a parks and recreation agency. And so we've done it. It was phenomenal. One of, our basketball league won the championship in the division. And it obviously wins and losses aren't really necessarily what it's all about. It's bringing people together and providing programs for people of all abilities. But the camaraderie and what it brought, that pride of being able to participate and put that under the Hilton-Parma branch, pretty much outfit them in jerseys with our brand on it. It was a pretty special program. And it's just honestly something that we haven't been doing a great job of doing. And that is providing opportunities with people or for people of all varying abilities. So I appreciate you all indulging and sharing some of your responses, Shane, albeit that I'm not so sure you really answered the question, but hey,
it's our extra programs.
Eggs and kids, right? So eggs and kids. So let's move on to our guest today. We got a great guest. As I think Shane mentioned pre-show, our guest pseudonym on Zoom today is Miss America Want to Be. That is the word want, number 2, letter B. So our guest comes with 32 years of professional experience in the field. So not someone who's been in there for just a couple days, right? Lots of time providing services to people every day. Currently providing services and programs for 17 park districts in their area. The president or current president of the Special Leisure Services Foundation. A little bit of a connection to the pseudonym today. Does have some affiliation and works with the Miss America Corporation. The individual is a recent recipient of the Robert Arts Lifetime Achievement Award for the Illinois Park and Recreation Association. Anything yet?
No, not on my end. 17 park districts.
I think I know, and if I'm correct, I'm very happy. But I don't know if I know for sure. So
Jay,
we're actually, if it's the person I think it is, we're currently connected right now in a way.
Okay. So this next one might give it away a little bit, at least maybe to Jay, but the individual is an absolute phenomenal dynamite and dynamic speaker and has a radiating personality. Jay, you and I had the opportunity to be front row when the individual addressed a group of people in Dallas. So I think Jay is onto it.
I know
Shane,
it is.
do you have any idea?
No, they're in Illinois.
Yeah, Illinois.
No.
Okay. I'm going to give one more and then probably let Jay go ahead and shout it out. But our guest is the current executive director at the Northwest Special Recreation Association.
Oh, Tracey Crawford.
Our guest is the current Academy president, Tracey Crawford. Welcome, Tracey.
Hello,
Tracey.
I love that. I loved all the background banter and what's going on, and
and the failure to get connected.
Yes,
well,
there was a lot
I
going on.
felt very at home with that. Jay knows from our connection. I'm always like, okay, now what am I pushing? So I felt at home.
Tracey and I have been connected for the last year through the Academy mentor-mentee / extern program. So we've been meeting pretty regularly. It's been phenomenal. And I've actually known her for a little while anyway before that. But this is awesome. I'm so glad she's here.
I was thrilled to be asked.
Really. Yeah, absolutely.
Really well. I felt like this was like a secret spy decoder ring, all the stuff I had to do. Now, what's going on? What is happening?
Yeah. That's awesome.
Well, Tracey, we're super excited to have you and to exemplify some of that excitement, even though you can't see. And we have gotten some requests for people to see our video. I haven't told you both that, but we have had some people reach out to me and say, I wish we could see the video. Anyway, when Jay figured out who it was, he picture the Will Ferrell gif from Wedding Crashers.
Yeah.
That's how excited Jay was when he figured out that our guest was Tracey Crawford.
I love
it. So Tracey, let's kick it off here. And we talked about programming a little bit in our intro. And it's not a topic I think that we discuss all the time. And then specifically, when we talk about providing programs and services that have an emphasis on accommodations and accessibility to those of all abilities. Okay, so I talked about a little bit about our partnership with the Special Olympics. That was I think that was a great initiative for us, a good start. But an agency like mine and many agencies out there, we don't necessarily have inclusivity specialists or therapeutic recreation specialists. We're looking to partner. And as I understand it, that is exactly what your organization provides in, as you alluded to in the intro, how you're partnering with 17 park districts in Illinois. And so tell us a little bit about what you do and the services you provide.
I would love that. Anytime, any of us get a chance to talk about what we do, it's a phenomenal moment. I have been blessed to have my entire career in what's called Special Recreation Association, working at a Special Recreation Association. Illinois is the only state in the country that has them. And Illinois doesn't do a lot right when it comes to serving individuals with disabilities, okay? But this, I truly believe they got right. The format was to mirror a special education cooperative, which was, the special education cooperative hires all the professionals, has all the resources, the expertise to then send out to the school districts to provide those specific services to support individuals with disabilities. So 8 parents almost 55 years ago went to their legislator and said, look at here, if the school district can do this, why can't our recreation departments do something like this? Because what's happening is in my household, I have one child that's going and participating in rec and and I have my child with a disability who is struggling, doesn't have a peer group, and so voila, created was the Special Recreation Association format. We are 2 or more park districts, village or city must get together to form us, okay? The sizes vary. NWSRA, my agency, is the largest with a footprint of 17 communities that we serve. The smallest would be 2. Okay, so 2 or more would come together. In Illinois, our park districts get property tax dollars to support their budgets. So anywhere from 50% to 60% of their budget is through property tax dollars. Okay, and that's from the homes, businesses, the what have you. But in Illinois, they're able to also levy for specific fund to support individuals with disabilities. I don't like the name that they use, but it's called the Handicapped Accessible Fund. Takes government a while to catch up. But Handicapped Accessible Fund. And that money is used to support the Special Recreation Association and access to recreation programs for those individuals with disabilities in those communities. I'm blessed enough to have a staff of 46 and a fleet of vans. I don't find that a blessing, but 24 accessible vehicles. I'm over vans. Can I tell you that?
Yeah.
But it's the number one reason why individuals with disabilities don't participate in recreation programs is because they can't get there. They don't have access. They can't get there through transportation. Our public transportation systems, for lack of a better word, suck. Okay, there's so many restrictions. We don't go this way. We don't go east and west. We only go north and south. Can't go outside of the village. And so what that does is for an individual that needs that accessible vehicle, it literally creates a barrier from them participating in programs and services. So it's an excellent way that in Illinois, we're addressing the Americans with Disability Act, and we're providing those services, programmatic, training, all the way to access as far as buildings, facilities, playgrounds, that kind of stuff. So that's a little bit about who we are. Does that give a good summary?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I got a question.
Good.
I think, and hopefully I'm not misspeaking when I say this, but I think as we evolve as a society, as we continue to educate and become more accommodating and more understanding of not people and their problems, but problems in their people in some ways, we see the stigmas of things change. Like when I used to think of senior programmings, or when I even used to think of special needs programmings, both of those in a lot of ways were assisted programmings. Those were people that had a heavily assisted, there was someone there was a caregiver or someone that was assisting with those spaces. Now you see the senior program term, there are groups of folks that are in what we would class as a senior population, but they want to be called active adults. They're able to navigate to and from facilities, and they're very active in their retirement.
That's
lifestyle.
me. I'm now in that age bracket. Watch it there, Shane.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm an active adult.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And I think the
skin.
same thing is happening with what we would used to call a special needs population. I think the phrase on the spectrum is now almost something that is so understood that you work with people and you're okay with that. You're like, I think he's a little on the spectrum, and it's not a wall that you've put up. It's almost in some areas of workflow. It's even a superpower in some ways. Those people maybe find in some details of, they're more numbers driven or whatever it is. And so as special needs programming has evolved over your career, what has that done to the programming requests? Like the voids, but what have you seen in those areas where a special needs population, maybe someone we wouldn't think was special needs in a term that we used to downgrade a person for, other people assign themselves to that or assimilate into that population, and they're wanting services that maybe you weren't used to providing. Are you seeing those types of trends?
Definitely. You're right on target with that, Shane. And I'm going to tell you, and I'm aging myself, but I have been in the field 33 years. And when we started and you talked about individuals with disabilities, it was more so the disabilities that you could see. You know what I'm talking about? That individual has Down syndrome. That individual happens to use a wheelchair to ambulate, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Through time, not that those have gone away by any means. But now what we're seeing is, and not just in recreation, but in our workforce, okay? You're seeing with the rise in people's comfort in discussing mental illness and behavioral and emotional, differences in learning. We're seeing that is a huge population that are not necessarily asking for services, but are asking for understanding and respect in that, hey, I'm going to come to you and say, I've reached my wall. Okay. I have an anxiety disorder. I have depression. Those are real.
Yeah.
That was not stuff that you talked about. So let alone someone who may have a physical disability and have some emotional or mental health support that they need. So that's a huge population. When we're talking about on the spectrum, is what we're understanding is when you talk about the spectrum, for those that are in my field, we automatically know that you're talking about individuals with autism. And that autism spectrum, what we're understanding, because we're able to diagnose it sooner and more accurately before, and I'm really dating myself, but that was just that uncle that was just kind of different.
Yeah.
Okay. He didn't really engage in conversation, but boy, the man was smart as a whip. Okay. And could whip through them numbers. And all of a sudden he'd be talking. You'd be like, okay. You know what I'm saying? Okay. They are brilliantly leading corporations and companies. And so what we're finding is the spectrum means that it's everywhere from maybe needing more assistance to not as much assistance, but maybe socially struggling with how to engage and interact. So I think what we're finding is our services, we're supporting our districts and talking about, you know, how your employees look different now, how your parents, your patrons, you know, the parents of children that may or may not have a disability are coming in, and they may be on the spectrum or have some mental health, or are veterans coming home with postpartum depression. I mean, there's just so many things that are happening that has changed the scope of how we look at things, so to speak. So I agree with you. Yeah, I remember when we used to say the word ADA and folks went into trauma. Right? Well, what? We can't, my staff, blah, 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 we're not ready, make it accessible. And it was just all, now you would not think of opening a facility or building a facility or making changes without making them accessible.
I think that's an incredible point. I mean, when I was growing up, when I was younger, a movie like Rain Man is what you thought of when you thought of autism.
Exactly.
And now it's Elon Musk, essentially. It's someone
Exactly.
that
Exactly.
the stigma of that has changed. And like I said earlier, in some ways, it's a superpower for those organizations that are looking for skill sets that those people have a great inclination for and do really well and enjoy those types of things. And so it's just interesting to think the stigma of that has changed, but the recreational services has changed. We think about, you know, dad and daughter dances. Well, if you're someone that doesn't handle strobe lighting and all those types of
Exactly.
impacts, you know, you're seeing accommodations through all those, or you're seeing, we did a dad and daughter dance one year where we had a couple hours where the lights weren't as intense, and those families that needed that accommodation could come and get their experiences early. And then as it progressed later in the evening, the lights came on, and we let people know through the sound system and the speaking.
I love that.
And you're seeing fireworks now that aren't fireworks. They're the color shots, or all these different things. You're starting to see different accommodations, and it just seems that we're more accepting as a society, and our programming has grown to show that. I think that's probably
I agree with that. I think that we are recognizing that the diverse is when we're talking about diversity and equity and inclusion and those type of things, right in that is serving people of all abilities. It just should be. And it's so funny because I've talked to and been reading up on the different populations or different groups that support and speak out for individuals with disabilities. And one of the things they're saying is it's about time. You know, they're tired of being seen as, you know, oftentimes from the Park and Rec, you were so right, Shane, that we're always giving that handout and we have to assist you. And they're like, no, just provide the program and automatically be thinking about all the different abilities and just make those adjustments. It shouldn't have to be that big of a deal anymore. So I'm glad to hear some of that good stuff going on.
You know, that brings up a good point. You had mentioned about how most of our mission statements are going to have some kind of, you know, I know ours does. It's going to have a statement about where we are here regardless of this, and that, right? We are accepting of all abilities. However, as we progress in this, I do think, and we talked about this yesterday, Tracey, when we had kind of had our pre-podcast discussion, and we had talked a little bit about parents being apprehensive to, they might read Pflugerville Recreation or Hilton-Parma Recreation, and they're not associating with that. They're not reading our mission statement. And so, without having a specialized advertised program, what are some things that we can do as agencies who may not have a special therapeutic department or an inclusivity specialist? What are some things we could do, language we can use to really make it that we can promote our programs so that a parent or even an adult that might have, some varying needs would say, you know what, that is a good fit for my child, or that is a good fit for me. What can we do to spread the word?
Okay, this is what I'm going to say, and I don't know if it's a broader sense, but I think you have to start there. Okay, number one, it is all about what is that agency doing to make everyone feel welcome. Okay, we are all visual people. So let's start with, if I went to your brochure or website, do I see anybody that happens to be using a wheelchair, that has Down syndrome, okay. Those are those messages that you're sending me, that I'm welcome. As a parent, I'm looking for that. So, you can say in your little mission, whatever you want to say, but if I'm not seeing it, I don't believe it. Okay. So start there. So, and if you got to use stock photos, then get cracking. Okay. Because people are going to go through and listen, some of the biggest corporations out there, Target, Walmart, all of them are smart enough to know that they need to start incorporating visually the diversity that they want to walk through the door. So start there. Okay. Yes, get that mission out there. But number one is, when I walk in, what is the experience? Do I feel like I belong? All of us went to nationals, and I just love that keynote speaker. She was so dynamic. And when she was giving the keynote about DEI or diversity or whatever, she said these three things that stuck out to me. And I think this is so good right now. People, when they feel like they belong, they want to feel like they're expected to be there. Okay. So from the moment I wheel in, okay, when I get out my car, are the curb cuts in the right spot? Can I get to the door? And when I hit the button, is it 25 feet from where the door is? So I got to be like racer person to get in? Or did you plan for the fact that I'm by myself and independent, because that's how I roll, okay? And I'm coming in, and when I get to the desk, is the height of that desk where it should be so that I can talk to the registrar? And did they freak out when they saw me? Okay, see, these are all things, because guess what? We all know word of mouth spreads. If I leave there and I didn't have a good experience, I'm telling everybody and their mama. And if my child didn't have a good experience, I walked in as a parent, I'm going to the school, I'm talking to blah, 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 blah. So a lot of it is, what is that sense of belonging that you're created? And she said, am I expected to be there? Okay, then once I'm there, am I reflected? So that's, again, your materials. Reflected means, do I have everything ADA compliant? Okay. Is your staff prepared? Are they shocked and amazed when I say, my son has autism and he'd like to be in your Zumba program? And are they like, oh yeah, we got to call some people. Okay. And suddenly they're not able to respond to that. Right away, I'm feeling like you're not prepared. Okay. So that's I am expected to be there. I'm reflected once I'm there, and I'm respected for the level of assistance that I ask for or that I don't ask for. Does that make sense? So let's just say I happen to come in your program and I wheeled right into Zumba. Is your Zumba instructor going to freak out? If I'm in the weight room, do I have enough distance so I can slide on and off independently? Or does everything have to stop? Now I got to go okay. All of those things are going to help me feel welcome. Once I feel welcome, I have a community that I belong to, and I'm going to spread that word. You know what? That park district was on point. Okay. I went in, I was able to work out, get my sweat on from the locker room, from when I left my car to when I worked out, to when I went into the locker room, showered, whatnot, la, 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 la. Everything was ready. I was able to independently do that. They greeted me like no other. They didn't bend over backwards, because that's another thing we tend to do, kill ourselves trying to overhelp. And I'm like, you know what, I'm all right. That kind of thing. And I went on about my day. Okay. That to me sends a louder message than any other advertisement that you can do. Also, backdoor, I'm going to go to where there are individuals with disabilities. I'm going to hook up with that senior center. I'm already at the schools and I'm promoting and I'm trying to get some stuff in every parent. Hey, did you know we welcome all? And on that flyer, I've got people of all abilities. And hey, if you need an accommodation, here's what you're going to do. You're going to mark this on the registration. I'm going to tell them how to do it. Okay, I'm not going to make it secret spy Dakota ring where I got to call 15 people to go to Zumba. Nobody else has got to do that. I should be able to register, mark a box to say, might need it to be on the first floor because you don't have an element, whatever it may be. Okay, that kind of thing. So that would be my answer. That's the old school answer, and I don't think it's changed in 33 years.
Awesome.
Well, and I love what you said about not always trying to feel like you're bending over backwards, because I think in maybe past situations that I've seen and maybe heard stories from is that actually makes it feel worse, because then, hey, you weren't prepared. Not that we can be prepared for everyone that comes in or every situation, but if you are bending over backwards, are you doing it because of the ability that you're trying to meet that maybe you weren't ready for? And then the other side of that is, if you're trying to open the doors to everyone and make everyone feel welcome, how welcome are you making them feel if you're giving them all the special treatment that everyone wants to be treated equally? Exactly. And, when you're changing this and moving people away from this room to go to that room because of a circumstance that, like, it doesn't make that person maybe comfortable, because it actually puts more emphasis on them.
Exactly.
That's not what is wanted from that individual.
Overcompensating for the air, right? Like,
exactly.
Dang, I did not think about special needs populations. Now I'm gonna spend the next 3 hours making sure I'm so attentive to them, and they don't want that either, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we just want to come and participate in the program like everyone else. We don't necessarily want you to have to bend over backwards. We want you to already have thought about that.
Yeah, and I think that's when the overcompensation comes in, when
Exactly.
good intentioned, probably, right? You didn't mean to not think about it, or you're in a facility that you didn't design, but you're running, and maybe you've even been there 18 months to 2 years. You've never had this incident. And you're like, wow, my privilege just smacked me in the face. I've never even had to worry about this. And now it's so glaringly obvious that I should have, that I'm going to try to overcompensate. I think a question I would have to follow that, and I don't know if you'd feel comfortable giving your opinion on this, and it's probably a tough question to ask you because it's a national question, but like, when I speak of the privilege of never having been in a wheelchair, and only using crutches a couple times after surgery, and it stinks every time I'm on crutches, but not being on crutches in years. I mean, in high school or whatever, when I had surgery. And so I take for granted how able-bodied I am and how easy it is to step over a curb stop if it's not in the right spot. Would you feel comfortable scoring us as an industry from a perspective of someone who has done this professionally for 30-something years? I mean, are we doing an A+ job in our industry? Are we doing a C+ job in our industry? Is this one of the biggest things we should be thinking of for the next 5 or 10 years, whether our master plans say it or not? Is this is this an industry known blinders that we're hyper focused on other stuff?
Wow, that is a great question. I would say that as a country, I think we're further ahead, or we believe that we are. But sometimes if you go overseas, they have done some things that are so far more advanced. They were already talking about unisex bathrooms and curb cut and all of those kind of things, sometimes even before we were. But to get back to, I think it's something that we constantly have to revisit. I think we've gotten comfortable. Okay. I think that we've gotten comfortable and we're like, those little ADA, people that are going to report that, they're not really around. Nobody's going to whatever. But what we need to think about is that baby boomer population, they're aging fast. And with aging comes what? Varying disabilities that can happen, and it does affect mobility. So let's just think about financially for organization. You've got a large population of boomers that are those active adults now. We're going to be seniors, real seniors soon, but we still have the mindset that we're independent and we've got enough money to stay in our homes and in the community. And I'm still coming However I get there, I know how to get the Uber. Okay. I'm still coming to your facility, and I'm not going to really want to admit that now I'm in a wheelchair or I'm in a this. You see what I'm saying? So I think that for those agencies that may not, maybe they're at a C or a B plus, need to be thinking about, it's not just individuals with disabilities. We're always going to have those that already have those. It's going to be our aging population that is going to be demanding it. And guess what? They're still taxpayers. And they're still going to be saying, look at here. What do you mean I can't come now that I'm using the wheelchair and whatever? Move it on to the other floor. I've donated to your foundations. I've done, you see what I'm saying? Yeah. So I think it would be wise for us to really start thinking about that senior population that, they're still coming. And, maybe they have early onset Alzheimer's, or they've had strokes, or they've had whatever. You're still programming. They're just, what do? We program through a lifetime. So we need to start preparing more. So I don't know. I think some states and areas of the country may be more further ahead because they figured out a way to get the funding. But I don't think anybody's not doing it for lack of desire. I think it comes down to funding. And it's like, oh my God, I don't have the money. Do I give the money for scholarship, or am I trying to use it? But I think we have to say, listen, if we want to keep that funding coming in, that's a large population of boomers that we still want to keep coming in, because that's a lot of money walking out the door if they don't. It would be smart to be thinking, how do I start putting that money back in there to start making some of retrofit buildings and facilities that I'm not able to fully make accessible? Let's think about it. I'd be out there looking at my senior programs now. I'd be looking at the ages of people and just doing some extrapolations. In 5 years, in 10 years, what is 50% of my seniors program going to be 70? Well, let's take the national average. What do they say? 11% of those are going to have some kind of disability. That's a huge number. So that would be my answer. I think where we're really good is thinking about, children with autism and the kiddos and playgrounds. And, we automatically think of that, but I think we're not thinking about that senior and aging population that's coming in.
Tracey, I'm going to take things in a little bit of a different direction, if that's okay with the team. My first introduction to you was probably 6 or 7, maybe 8 years ago, when you did a DEI workshop for YPN. And then I reached out to you after and said, hey, this was absolutely phenomenal. Can you do it for our team in Mecklenburg County? And you did, and it was phenomenal as always. What are some easy initiatives or things that you think every agency needs to at least implement or focus on from a DEI perspective for staff? I think, we've talked a lot about programming and serving the community, but like when we're talking about building our staff and making sure we're focused among those DEI components, what are things that you've been pushing for agencies to focus on that we can do at all of our departments around the country?
Ooh, I love it. I'm wiggling. Okay. First of all, let's look at hiring. Okay. So I'm going to even go back further. As an agency, you all should be looking at your demographics. You know them well, okay? And a lot of times we say, and I've talked to agencies where they're like, well, we're just not attracting this certain demographic. And I say to myself, well, why? Why aren't you? Again, it goes back to, because when they're opening their brochures, when they're looking at your pictures, when they're not feeling welcome, okay? And so the first thing an agency should do is look at the demographics that is out there in your census data, and look at the demographics that you're serving and start looking at the gaps. Then you're going to start addressing, how can I serve those communities? Okay. Why aren't they coming? And I mean concerted effort. And that means, if I sent out a survey and they didn't fill it out, there's a reason why. Okay, they're not filling it out. Might not be in the right language. They may not be getting it. So I might be doing some foot to pavement, old school knocking to get some. I may be going to their community hubs where they gather. I'm connecting with the church. I'm going to the school, and I'm connecting with the why is that particular population not coming? Okay, so that's number one. That's easy to do. That's using your demographic data. One of the things that I say is when hiring, it's diversifying your staff. Where I find agencies tend to do it really well is, boy, we do it during day camp, don't we? Boy, we hire everybody named Mama. It's like, Benetton, we've got the flag of nations, every color, religion, or whatever when we have our camp staff, when it comes to camp. It's like all hands on deck. And then something camp ends, and what do? They just like, where do they go? I asked my staff that. I was like, well, what happened? Why is it only camp they're coming? And so I've really been focusing on how can we improve our hiring, okay, recruiting and hiring. And I highly suggest agencies go to that blind hiring. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's really when you're getting resumes for those full-time positions that your HR is taking out things that may tie them to a certain diversity group. So really, I'm looking at the skills and abilities. I'm not focusing on what college, where they live, all that kind of stuff. I'm really focusing on the skill, which is what we should be focusing on, right? And so does that get them to the level where I'm interviewing? And then once you interview, doing it in a team format, so that any unconscious bias that one person may bring, other ones may not be affected by. They'll be able to look through it because we all have it. Right? We all have it. You don't know. Somebody walk in and before they sit down, it's like, I don't know what it is, but I don't like them. Yeah, I don't know. I can't put my finger on it. But thank goodness there might be others that are like, look, they were dynamic. Da 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 da. Okay, do you see what I'm saying? So that group hiring. And then what we do here, because I am very passionate about it, once I started to diversify the staff, then I started getting into how do I make sure I keep them? Okay. And it boiled down to whether they felt like they belonged. Was my culture shifting? And you know what I'm talking about. We got them little groups. We smile and grin and we're happy that they're there. And then they walk in and they feel like the sore thumb. Okay, sticking out. And so HR sends out, I think bi-monthly, every other month, kind of that cultural check-in, and a survey goes out to all staff, part-time and full-time, just different questions, but real quickly, no more than 4 questions that gives me feedback on people really feeling like they belong. Okay. Because if they feel like they belong, they're going to stay, they're going to spread the word. If they don't, then we've got a problem. I'll be honest. They didn't when we first did it. I was like horrified. They felt like we were just talking the talk, but we weren't really doing anything to include them. It was like we checked a box. And I'm like, oh, wow, I'm so embarrassed. Okay. So we really had to make some changes. Some of them were policy changes. Some of them, we had people of different religions. We hadn't talked about if they wanted to use their pronouns. Just simple things that we hadn't talked about. They were really uncomfortable that on our registration forms, we were still saying Mr. and Mrs. We weren't expanding the sex identification. I mean, there was just so many things that these employees were like, you're saying this, but then I'm looking at this and you're still using this old time language in that. And so we really had to make a concerted effort to start evaluating, my God, I'm out speaking everywhere about DEI and I haven't lived in my own house. And I'm embarrassed to say it, but it was the best thing when I came back and my own staff said, you can be out talking about it, but we're not doing it here. So I had to roll up. Also, we created safe spaces. In Illinois, we have our safe zone conversations where agencies can have outside people come in and really allow people to explore and evaluate where they are on the DEI continuum, where they are personally without you as the leader. People say one thing to us as the leaders and another thing to a complete stranger, and we could really get to the bottom. And some agencies they were doing really well and they felt like their agency had done well. And others were like, yeah, they put that statement out there, but they aren't doing anything as far as equity and inclusion. I don't feel included. I feel like they hired me, they checked off a box, but I'm not really respected. My opinion isn't valued. It's still shocking and amazing that I'm here, those type of things. So hopefully that addressed that a little bit, Jay, but I think those are immediate things that you can start to do as an agency to start addressing that.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, just a comment, and Shane, I'll let you ask the question. I think with both what Jay just asked and you had addressed, Tracey, and then going even back to the question prior to and equipping your staff for really any situation is finding partners. You know, and so you asked the question about grading us, Shane. I don't know that, you know, I would say my agency, I could say, oh yeah, we have we're a grade A. But what I can say is that we can find partners, people like Tracey. Jay, you brought Tracey in to do a DEI, training for Mecklenburg County and your people. You know, we have a group called Rochester Accessible Adventures in our area, and they've come in and they've done training and talked a lot about the language and what we should be understanding when someone walks in the door to make them feel that way. And so even though we don't have the experts, there are experts out there and there are people, and that goes back to finances. Sometimes it's going to cost money, but you have to invest in order to get your team ready.
And sometimes it's a swap in services. You can't afford it, but you can say, hey, you can access our gyms, or there's always something somebody needs, you know, and say, I can't afford it, but what do you need? Let me see what we can kind of come up with, some kind of agreement, memorandum of understanding for training of our staff. Can you blah, 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 blah. So there's ways that you can get those services, but I'm not going to lie. Sometimes it's just making that investment.
Yeah, it is.
So I was going to pivot even one more time
Okay.
from
that's what we do.
Needs. Yeah, special needs and DEI. I got to work with Tracey a little bit last year. It was last year on the academy, one of their committees. The academy is, in some ways, when we're talking about evolution, when we're talking about seeing themselves differently, and that's happening in different parts of recreation. I think the academy is doing that as well. I think I don't know if they have yet experienced a rebirth, but I think they're on the pathway to finding out what that term would mean for them and their agency. And, as president, I'd love to just give you any time to pitch, because we talk about the academy from time to time. We talk to people who are on the academy, but I don't know if we've ever really talked what the academy is. And there are plenty of people that don't know what it is, don't know what y'all do necessarily, the multiple levels of investment and initiatives that y'all have created. I just thought it'd be a great time for you to talk a little about the academy and the things that y'all are trying to do differently moving forward.
Oh my gosh, I love you for that. Let me tell you, I'm going to tell you, I did not know what the academy was before I got on it. It was a group of people that I felt like met behind some door, cigar smoke and all that. My mentor, John McGovern, was a member of the academy, and all I knew is that at NRPA, he would disappear for large amounts of time somewhere. That's one of the things we're evaluating. So the academy is made up of we have 175 professionals, educators, and people who have retired that make up what we would like to say are folks that are at that point in their career where they've made some contributions, to parks, recreation, therapeutic recreation, conservation, in which has earned them the right to be a part of this group. Okay, that's the best way to say it. It's a select group. It's a select group of people. Right. Originally, the academy was formed to really make sure that research was being done, because let's face it, you can't get grants and that unless you have statistics and research. Okay, and so hence became the educators and the practitioners in that. We have truly grown, and I'm so excited you said that. And Shane, actually, before I became president, I everything happens for a reason. I believe that, but I am so thankful that Janet Bartnick was forward thinking enough to have the sustainability task force. And really it's really taking a very hard look at who we are and who we're serving and what impact are we making. Okay. And is all that sustainable? 10 years from now, is all that sustainable? And Shane asked us some hard questions. Why do I got to join you when I can do da 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 da? Okay. And so we started to ask the academy members that, well, why would professionals that are coming up, why would they need to join us? And some of the things that we're finding, and I think you'll find this as fact in the hundreds of mentors that we pair every year, the externs, best paper, the opportunity for that research to be done and for that person getting their doctorate to have something that now is seen nationally, the gold medal in JEDI alone, the Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, they're working on a White House initiative where they are targeting HBCU, college and universities, universities that are Native American, Hispanic, primarily, and saying, did you know we have careers in parks and recreation? And guess what? We're finding that there's money that goes to that. So let's think forward. All of us are trying to diversify our staff, and not just in park and rec, but we're businesses. What about your marketing, your business, your legal department? There's all these opportunities, and we need to get to schools to say, we need to say our message better. And that's what the Academy, along with NRPA, we're partnering with to do these things. Amazing stuff. So what I did is I really started to sit down with each one of the committees with what's your impact? Who are you affecting? What I realized, we're making a huge impact. We just aren't telling anybody about it. So one of the things that you're going to see us doing is, one, utilizing our externs and those brilliant minds that, when I looked at the list of externs, and I go, you've got to be kidding me. We've got these people as externs. We're not using them. Have we lost our minds? And so now we're making a concerted effort to say, no, we need your ideas. But also, I'm not going to lie, I wanted to get in the room of the Academy because I want to be able to pick up the phone and talk to someone when my house is burning, okay? I don't want somebody to give me suggestions. I want somebody to say, I have been through this, okay? And I can pick up the phone and call 20 people right now that are on the Academy. I'm sitting in rooms and on boards with people who have written the books that I studied from. That's the impact of the Academy, that they are giving back, and they are the knowledge pool of professionals that we all want to be in the room with. Okay, I want 20 minutes with a Jody Adams.
For sure.
I want 20 minutes with a Jody Adams. I want a Linda Katowski for about 4 hours. Okay, because you're going to walk away from that with life-changing information. So when people ask me, why do you join the Academy? Because that's the room where the people are doing stuff. And that's the room where they're going to teach me about what they've done. So I don't make those same mistakes, but as I'm going through, I can learn from it and keep going. You're not going to get that from folks that are like, well, I like to be there. I want to be there. They're hovering on the outside. So what I'm really doing is opening the doors. I want everybody to know about it. And I'm going to say it on this podcast. There are people that are listening right now. These are not, this isn't something that's unreachable. There are, things that you can do to get yourself ready to be a part of the Academy. Go to the website, look at the criteria, and start building your resume. Don't be shocked and amazed that when it becomes time, there's so many people that didn't spend their career building their resume. Okay, so they could get in the room. So get on there, look to see what it is and look at what we're doing. We have impacted so many professionals. So what you're going to see us doing is positioning ourselves so that we are sustainable. We realize we've made an impact. We've built up our social media and branding. We're not real good at that. As you saw, I could barely get on this call. But we're realizing that technology is the way. And so we need to figure out how to get to people. We also need to make sure that people that want to hear and want to meet, you've heard of master classes, where you can get on and I'm like, I want to sit there. Heck, I want to be a part of the master class. And I want to get in the room with people that have done those things. We're trying to get the legends information together. Why is that important? Because those are the people that built our profession.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you don't know the history, shame on us. Shame on us for letting those people walk into the sunset and we never captured that. That is so important. The statistics to make sure that when you're going to a lobbyist, I can say, this is how many people we've impacted. It's not just the feel good, but it's the dollars and the cents. We learned through COVID that we are an integral part of our communities. Okay. And so what the Academy is doing is saying, how do we capture that through research? How do we award best practices? How do we capture the most talented and the best to make sure that we're propelling our profession forward? So that would be my answer. If you'd have asked me a couple years ago, I'd have been like, I don't know.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's really cool.
But what I love about what you just said, though, if you would ask me a couple of years ago, and Shane and Tom and I have had these conversations over the years. Like we literally had a conversation probably 3 years ago at conference, and we were in a way asking like, what is the academy doing? Like, what are their goals? And I think it's more.
And I told that group that, by the way, I told the group what we said. Yeah.
I wrote it down,
so,
and that became a part of our impact plan. It's some of your exact words, Shane. I was like, look, if we can't address this, why are we here? Yeah. So that's what we're addressing.
Yeah.
It's very exciting.
It is. And I remember walking past, I think I was with Jay. I remember walking past Shane and Janet in this very, very cozy
hotel
lounge.
That's right.
They're on like a couch or something like that.
In the room where it happens, right?
In the room where it happens.
So,
yep.
You know, what a PSA for the academy, Tracey. I don't think it could have been.
Although
said.
I don't know it. Tracey said something about if you're listening to this and you have any interest in being no future academy members are listening to this Knucklehead podcast. I can promise you that.
Yes, they are.
No way.
Yes, they are.
You know what, Shane? I think you tend to not give the podcast that much credit. There's a reason that we've had as many academy members as guests to tell the stories,
about you.
Right? And
That's
so
right.
we've got a lot of them have guests, a lot of them who tell me they keep listening and are enjoying it. So
They're just being
I
nice.
spread the word. I was like,
just being nice.
I don't even know. I was invited on a podcast. I can't tell you which one yet, but
so
right.
All because Shane doesn't listen to it or share it doesn't mean other people don't listen to it and share it.
That's true. So Tracey, this was a great conversation. I want you to take us home with one final response to a question, if you would mind, and just tie us all the way back to the beginning when we talked about a unique and fun program, and maybe tell us a little bit about a feel-good story or program, or what you're offering through Northwest that maybe one of our agencies can take the idea, and that's what we're all about, right? Taking and using those ideas. Something you've done that's been special and near and dear to your heart.
Listen, I've done so many things, but one of the things, and I don't know necessarily if it's something that you can take, but I can tell you how we took an opportunity, and I had no idea how it was going to expand and grow. One of our park districts had an old farmhouse. Okay. And let me tell you, when I went in and they showed it to me, they're like, hey, are you interested in this? Listen, I wanted to bathe after I left out of there. I was like, what is this nasty place? But you have to look past the dead birds and all that stuff. And now it has become a hub for what is going to be on almost an acre of land with fully accessible outdoor nature center, accessible greenhouse, disc golf, bocce, playground. And this house, we took a 3-story farmhouse. I put an elevator in it.
Wow.
But when you walk in, it's like home. And it supports one of our 6 programs for adults with disabilities, our day program, but it's one of our program spaces. And it has become the hub of that community. I built 6 of these spaces. And I went to my partners and, after years of begging, and I was begging. I said, I know you got some space. Give me any space. And, oh, no, we don't have space. Yeah, you got space. And some of them would just give us a couple rooms. And I said, I'll take it. And we took each one of those spaces and we put our programming in the middle of your recreation center in what used to be like your storage wing or your whatever. And let me tell you the changes. We went from when I first opened the door, and I got the call. I was scared to death. First of all, I didn't know if we'd have anybody register. A lot of money went into it. We not only had people register, but we had a waiting list of 120. Okay. And that was with our first one. But here's the stories, the feel good, and why I do what I do. So we got in there. We're at a wing of this park district. It had a fire door that closes off our wing. And there's seniors, okay, in early childhood that's during the day. And the first call I get from the director that says, we've had some seniors complain and the early childhood parents, because they want to know, where are those people? Did you hear what I just said? Where are those people going to be using the bathroom? I said, what? And they said, well, are they going to be using the same bathroom that all of us are going to be using? Okay, I've only been here 12 years, so I'm just going to say this language within 12 years. Today, I've got my adults with autism. They could be walking down the hallway flapping next to a senior that's just talking to them like this is normal.
Right.
You talk to them,
That's
they're like,
cool.
yeah, Dan's having a bad day. I'm coming down to see the turtle. The preschoolers are now in my sensory room, that's being led by adults with disabilities. Okay. My seniors are now coming down to my tech lab that's fully accessible. We worked with Microsoft on that. I mean, that is what I mean with inclusion. Okay. In each one of those spaces, we see people with disabilities in the main hub with people without disabilities, and they're expected to be there. Okay. They are embraced. If a behavior happens, we're not traumatized. We're just like, hey, let me go get the staff. Dan's having a bad day. Okay. It doesn't stop everything. So I'm so proud of that. I'm just really, really proud how we've been able to take these spaces and utilize them. And sometimes they were just spaces that the park just was like, yeah, we're not going to be using this. We've moved here because it's da 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 da. And through fundraising, grants, we've been able to open every single one, 6 spaces in my community. So I am very proud of that work that my team has done.
Really cool.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that, Tracey. And just in general, thank you for being here today. We really, really appreciate you making the time.
Oh,
And
I've
this
loved it.
conversation, I know this is going to be one of people's favorite episodes. So thank you so much.
We didn't
Thank
talk about the
you.
pageant.
Oh, the pageant.
Next time.
Yes. Next time, call me on and I'll talk to you about that whole world of stuff.
Thanks for being on. It's good seeing you.
Awesome.
Bye,
Thanks so much,
guys.
All right,
Tracey.
Tracey. Take care. Have a great one.
That was a good episode.
Yeah, that was fun. Tracy's one of those people that I had just met for the first time in Dallas. So I had no prior exposure to Tracey, and talk about people who make lasting first impressions. There are those people out there, and she's one of them. So I had to ask her, Jay, I told her yesterday, I was like, oh boy, I'm pretty sure I was convinced Jay was going to beat me to the punch on this one. So I'm just glad I got to her before you.
Way to make me feel bad.
No,
She's fantastic. She always is full of energy, full of life, brings so much to a conversation, and will always give you new ideas and make you think things maybe a little differently that you haven't in a way that would just improve your services even more.
When I was on Janet's academy committee, it was pretty intimidating. Everybody there is not just an academy member; it's the who's who. I mean, Janet had this big list of big time hitters on this committee, and when I'm saying some hard things, you're looking at the screen to see if it lands, and you're wondering if you're going to get invited back for the next meeting. And I always appreciated, everyone was great, but Tracey was like just encouraging, even though she wouldn't say anything. You could see it landing. You could see her encouraging me to continue going with it. And that was the first I got to know Tracey. And radiant is a great way to describe her when you use that in her run up. It's absolutely, she's an incredible asset to this industry. And it's a damn shame that more states and agencies don't have a Tracey to lean into, because I think all the time, anytime not only on the DEI side, like when we talk to, Tiffany a lot, Dr. J, as she likes us to call her, I'm reminded a lot, but I don't have enough conversations with people talking to me about rec or special needs programming to constantly be reminded. I am afraid on the spectrum of being an A+ to an F and trying to overcompensate. All of our facilities are ADA for sure, but are we doing the things once they get in the door to make them feel welcome? Man, I think my department isn't doing that very well.
No, I would think that a lot of us are feeling like we're in the same boat. And what really intrigued me about learning more about Tracey is the fact that Illinois, and she said it today, is the only state that has a system like that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty valuable system when most of those park districts are probably like our departments, right? Yep. You're doing what you're doing. You're trying, most all of them are trying to do it the best that they can. But we're going to be lacking in certain areas, right? And if we don't have the specialized training or individuals on our team, that's that's a recipe for us to say we're in need of this service and we don't have the tools to provide it. Yeah. They're giving those people the tools, and that's phenomenal.
It was a good one. Really good episode. Way to go, Tom.
All right, guys. I will look forward to seeing you on number 6 of season 2, whenever that is. I don't know if you noticed today, but going back to number
Dan
1,
Mason.
I do. Yeah, Dan Mason. I'm repping my Red Wings. This is kind of like a vintage zip up hoodie type thing. So now 2 of us on the show have some Red Wings gear, and I'm looking forward.
Dig?
That is, I guess.
Dig.
I don't know.
I'm not sure if you're complimenting him or digging at me that I don't have some.
Well, I'll just let you and the 2 people listening at this point interpret that. So, hey guys, we'll see you next time, and everybody, we'll catch you on RecLess next time.
All right, see ya.